What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal, Spaz Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check. It's a celebration, bitches. It's also the state of wrestling, and that is also Jake fucking DeMarco. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, broski? We have so much to be excited for. Not only have we had an amazing second week debut on the CW network for NXT, not only are we coming off of quite a high for a WWE PLE, but we also get to celebrate. That's right. We do. The ratings, baby.
Okay, here's your placard right here, right at the beginning of the episode. If you don't like the pods, and I've actually had a podcast comment on this, if you don't like the pods where Spaz gets a bit tribal and brings Jake along for the ride, and I'm going to be a bit of a dick tonight, this may not be the pod for you.
If you are a little adverse to some AEW dislike, I mean, it's warranted. They've earned their comeuppance.
They have, 100%. But I'm just saying, if there's anybody out there that just doesn't want to hop into the tribal soup with us, that's going to be a good portion of the beginning of this pod. I understand if you're way more mature than me, it doesn't take much, but this is what we are doing.
Yeah, MJF said it recently. He's like, I hate, he's like, are you watching WWE? He was asking. He's like, of course, it's stupid if you're not. You got to be a master of your game and all that. And yeah, he's right. Mm-hmm. But saying you hate tribalism in wrestling is like, it's the same thing for NFL or hockey, any of this stuff.
I guess my neighbors over in Toronto don't like when the Toronto Maple Leafs win or the Argos win or the Raptors win. What do we call them? The Canada Raptors, because we've only got one team up here. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
We just have the one. That's it. No one else is being thought.
Well, we had the Grizzlies for a while, but that.
Hey, we used to have the Whalers. Shit happens. But I'm telling you.
Hey, let's not talk about ex-wives, all right?
Oh
my God! I'm in such a good mood today, buddy.
I'm feeling it, buddy, and that's the thing. Like you said, it's earned.
Chickens
it's about
coming
time
home to roost.
And by a great deal as well. I mean, we'll certainly get into it.
We've got lots of numbers. Some of them I sent you. Some of them I've kept to myself.
But there's a lot to be excited about, and I don't view tribalism as a bad thing. This is something we could break down at another point in time, obviously. Sure. But in a very little quick, sum-it-up way, tribalism I don't view as a negative. I think it's a good thing to have favorites and to have things that you like. I'm not saying you can't watch other products, but to find one more enjoyable than the other, I mean, it's basically a mirror image of itself. AEW started off as a extended version of BTE, and that was their original way to broadcast. And then as time went on, they became more indie-rific, and it fell out of kind of what they were going for. And now they're lacking story, but they have typically what people are looking for in indie matches.
The
20 minutes, 20 minutes all the way up to an hour for some of them.
I'll say for all the mud that I throw, and I'm gonna try and throw in a couple fair points every now and then because I'm gonna be a real dickhead for a lot of this. I will say, for all the mud that I throw at the Mud Show, wasn't even trying to do that. This is the first week, I think, since they started, that I haven't watched Dynamite. Just because it was on at the same time, I focused on what we were focused on.
Yeah.
And
especially with us covering NXT.
That too. Okay, cheap plug. Go over to Jake's channel. We live streamed after NXT Week 2. It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on. If you haven't checked that out, it's still up there on the channel. I believe Week 1 is back up as well now.
Yes, Week 1 is now back up. Yeah, because NXT's intro, it wasn't even the music. It was just the video of it. I'm like, shouldn't they be excited that we're showing off your new? It's not like I aired NXT. I showed a 10-second clip of your new intro, but God forbid.
Yeah.
Still.
Well, anyways, but that was a lot of fun. So we got some right off the cuff
great
reaction stuff
there.
over on Jake's channel. Please do go check that out. He's been helping us over here on this channel for a long time. I'm going to try and get over onto his neck of the woods a little bit more. It's live over there for him. It's more recorded, more podcast over here, but it's still the same two guys, and it's still us being dickheads. But
you get the best of both worlds, and that's what I love, because you got our instant, in-the-moment reactions, how we're feeling, what we're thinking, and then you get a little bit later, you get a chance to kind of, hey, I can watch it
Let's look back on it,
I can break it down. I get a chance to kind of really cultivate my feelings and thoughts and allow them to grow into something that's worthy of a podcast. And
of course. And the thing about it, too, is like with doing the immediate reactions, everybody here knows not a whole lot of the stuff that I do on here is immediate, but it does give you a chance to get your initial thoughts out there, and then through other podcasts, through other reports, through some numbers that we're going to talk about, you get a broader idea of what the rest of the world thought of the show as well. And then it's a different conversation after that. But I am going to continue. I'm going to keep the train on the track, and I'm going to keep the train going. Cheap plug, go check out Jake's channel. I'm having a lot of fun over there with him. You get to see my pretty sexy face, which doesn't happen a whole lot over here. So if you want our detailed thoughts on the breakdown of the actual show, all of that stuff is over there. I think you said you preferred night 2. I think I'm still sticking with I preferred night 1, but it is pretty damn close.
Yeah, it's very close. And the thing was, like, night 1 might have been the better show.
Yeah.
But night 2 felt more like NXT. Night 1 had a very main roster feel to it in a sense, because that's how they were trying to present themselves. And night 2 had less of a dependence on legends and whatnot. I mean, they still had moments, but I mean, it felt like night 1 they had presented Punk more as the draw than. And it was a little less, but he is a big star, and they needed that.
And it was the newness. It was Punk
Absolutely.
in Chicago, and it was the newness of the show itself.
In an arena, in a different environment, like everything was different there, and it needed a chance to be felt. And goddamn, am I excited!
Yeah, but here's the thing as well. Like there has to be some hubris behind it as well, in the sense of we had to downsize week 2, we had to downsize the October 8th show to a smaller venue. I thought the venue was really cool. I said over on your show, it's the closest I've ever felt to being back in Full Sail. Flip side of that is the massive success of their tickets in Chicago. They want to say, look at the building we sold out.
Yeah,
or not sold
absolutely.
out, but filled up to whatever you didn't think was going to be was going to be there. So they made it small when it was small and put on a good smaller show, and when they had the chance to go big, they did big and knocked that out of the park as well. So I'm very interested to see which type of venue they choose to go forward for the road shows, because we are back to the PC next week.
Yeah, and no
I
doubt
still want to know.
about that.
I still want to know, and like, it's a step back, but my curiosity of what they've done, because they've torn down what the old PC looked like for old NXT, and it has been rebuilt. So there is still okay, you've taken this show on the road. What does it look like when it comes home? I'm still curious about that. It's a downgrade. It's taking it back to the studio size show, but I still want to know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I call it the Platinum Age of NXT. I think that's what I'm going to stick with. Because Silver sounds like second place, but the Platinum Age of NXT is good. I like it. I came up with it, so of course I like it.
I really do agree, and that's the thing. It's like, ooh, all right. There's certainly something to say to that, and I've enjoyed the main roster. I've enjoyed NXT, and I don't want to shit on AEW. I really don't. That's never my intention. But here's the thing. Right now, do you have a story that you're enjoying in AEW? Honestly, is there even one that you're like semi into
as much as we make fun of it, and I know there were developments this week, so I want to be fair in saying that I didn't watch this week, and evidently neither did anybody else. I'm sorry, it's right there. I have to. But I have to be fair in saying that I didn't watch this week, so I don't know where it went this week. It's weird, and a lot of people are making the whole, like, all the skinhead references and whatever. I do want to see where this new Moxley iteration of the BCC is going.
Yeah, it
BCC,
is.
And I've applied this to a lot of WWE stuff in the past, in conversations with you and by myself as well. It feels like something that is, whatever it's trying to be, it's almost there, and it hasn't quite shown itself. And I think with the fact that they have a pay-per-view coming up this weekend that I keep forgetting about, we might get a hint of that there.
Yeah, certainly.
For me, it's more just people that I like. I know there was a pretty good lucha match on this week that, from what I've heard, was received really well. And that's not a story, but it's also the type of wrestling that I can switch gears and just say, oh, cool, we're going to see the flippy guys do some flippy shit.
Yeah.
But that being said...
What are we getting? How is it coming? What's happening? All that being said,
I know that there was a match added to... We're not going to break down WrestleDream here, obviously. But I know that... what is it? It's Hologram versus the Beast Mortos at WrestleDream.
The Beast, yeah.
2 out of 3 lucha match. I mean, I predict that'll be good. It'll be fun. I like the Beast Mortos when he was Black Taurus as part of Decay in TNA. Here's what kills me.
I forgot that was him, honestly.
Yeah, I mean they've changed up his look a little bit. Obviously, I guess they had to change the name, even though I think his Twitter handle and everything are still the same.
Yeah.
Here's my point, though, right? Like, because people, and I'm gonna bring up TNA as a comparison example later on. That's one of the numbers I'm gonna come up with for you a little bit later. Black Taurus as part of Decay. I mean, there's people that don't like the creepy gimmicks. I get that. It's for me. It's not for everybody. Rosemary at Havoc and Crazy Steve before Crazy Steve got fucking jacked.
Yeah, no doubt.
But they made fun of it like, oh, it's El Torito all grown up and da 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 da. And now all of a sudden over in AEW, oh, this is really fun. Look at him, he's a badass. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, how did you get that exactly?
And he is. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't want this to be misconstrued as I'm shitting on it because I mean the Beast Mortos is exactly, again, it's the kind of thing that I would like because I like the things that point out how ridiculous wrestling can be in a positive way, but it's like, tell me you just follow the initials without telling me you just follow the initials. Because if he was still in TNA, you'd be taking the piss out of that gimmick.
Yeah, you would be hating it and you wouldn't enjoy it. And that's the thing. And see, I'm right there along with you. Shane McMahon or whoever the leader of the Moxley skinhead era might be.
I hope it's not that. Just for the sake of the people involved.
Yeah. I mean, but who else? Realistically, they've sold it with it being Shane in many ways by not saying anything. So I feel like fans are going to be greatly disappointed if it isn't him or someone on that level.
Well, supposedly the debut that we're getting on the week, I don't even know, is it Saturday or Sunday? Like, that's how much I'm paying
Saturday, because there's no Collision. They canceled Collision as well.
Okay.
Which surprised me. Instead of having 0 hour.
I'm sure 5 people are mortified
devastated,
by that.
Yeah, that they don't get their tickets to Collision.
But here's the thing as well, right? You got Moxley in this group, and I am interested to see what this group is. When all the skinhead jokes go away, when all the, oh my god, he looks like a KKK guy without the hood, whatever. I'm not saying those comments, but I get it. When they finally underline that it's not that and this is what it is, and then they put it out on show and see what it is, I'm interested to see what it actually is once the jokes go away, right?
Yes.
Now, counter to that is he's in the main event, or what I'm assuming is the main event, for the world title. You got Moxley, who I've been behind since he was Ambrose. I didn't watch him as John Moxley in the Indies before WWE. You guys all listening to me all know that. But I liked him since he was Dean Ambrose. I liked him when they were using him well. I liked him when they were using him shitty. I liked when he came out with a gas mask on. Shoot me. So, like, he was one of those guys that went over to AEW, and as a WWE fan, I was like, well, shit. Right up there with Danielson and Adam Cole and the double shot and all that kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
And Bryan Danielson, on the other side of the coin, I've loved and I've hated. I've been sick of. I've compared to John Cena at part of his run in WWE, which nobody liked. But I've gone all over the map with Daniel Bryan, but I've never denied how good he is, right? So it's another one
certainly.
of these, and I think we said this about one of the matches going into All In as well. How are these two guys that I have this high of an opinion of in the main event of this show, and I don't care?
Yeah, and
It's
that's
bad,
not
man.
great at all.
I mean, part of it is they're telling the story of, oh, Daniel Bryan's going to retire soon. Look at him. He's falling apart. He's held together with tape. Like, you're doing that with a Darby Allin down the card so much of the time. And how are you elevating that to the main event? I'm so interested in what the Moxley character does and what this match does to that character. But
I get that.
But I'm not interested in the match. And I should be. There's every reason for me to be. But it's just not there.
Yeah,
and
that's
if you're having a hard time getting through pay-per-views and stuff like that, I know Jake's doing some watch-along stuff. I don't know if you're doing it this time.
I won't be around this week, and I'm still doing the trail for October, so I'm busy making people piss their pants. But
good stuff.
This
so
time,
I will say, I would have done a double cheap plug for you and these guys, but as you guys know, I've been talking a lot recently about the Wrestling for Life Network guys. They're not connected to me. I'm not connected to them in any way, shape, or form, but I know a lot of people out there like finding watch-along content. Some people do it with good mic work, but that's less said about that, the better. What Culture doesn't really do them anymore. So if you're looking for watch-along content, they're just my highest recommendation.
Yeah, Jake's not a great group of guys over there, and it's a ton of fun. And I've actually tuned in a few times when I was, out and about, not able to watch live, and it's like, oh, cool, because you still have that camaraderie and.
Yeah.
that funness with it. And you're right, like last thing on AEW, but it's hard not to make comparisons at times.
Oh, we will. We're going to be making comparisons.
We will, but I mean this honestly. I'm looking at the card right now. There's 11 matches that I see. The Young Bucks against Private Party, Mariah May and Willow. What the fuck was that? You didn't watch Dynamite, but they had Willow in a fatal 4-way.
And she pinned 2 people.
Yeah, so she wins, and then she gets headbutted backstage. So they get into a small little confrontation, and Mariah May headbutts Willow so hard in the mouth that she immediately starts bleeding, and then later on she gets her revenge by pouncing her, but instead of attacking her more, she starts cutting a promo, and it's like it was just very disjointed and weird, and that botch of a headbutt that really busted her open, like I'd be ripping pissed. But there's no story there for any of it. Ospreay, Ricochet, and Takeshita, the story is what? Don Callis making Takeshita go.
And Don Callis is trading wrestlers with other managers?
Yeah, Moxley isn't really speculation, or isn't really like a story, just speculation. There's more of like a wonder what'll happen, but there's not a story there. As where I can think of a bunch of things right now in WWE that I'm like, and that's what I need. That's what I want personally as a wrestling fan, is story. I need a reason to care. I used to love NXT because it was the best of both worlds. They had really good stories, and you got those incredible. They gave a long time to matches, because at that time the main roster, the longest match you were getting was the main event through 2 or 3 commercial breaks. Everything else was 1 commercial break and done, usually, if not shorter. Women's matches were 90 seconds. And then when you had NXT come about, they were getting half-hour Iron Man matches for the women's. They were getting 30-minute tag title defenses, and these things were happening.
And it took me a long time. I think I came to this conclusion sometime earlier this week. It's like somebody said to me, or I was watching I think it might have been a thread on Deluxe Man's feed, because I do pay attention to some of the stuff that he posts, and he's decent for news clips as well. And they were saying like, oh, this new NXT is pretty interesting, but nothing's ever going to beat Black and Gold, and it's never going to be Black and Gold again. Black and Gold, as much as I love it, as much as you and I talk nostalgically about it, right? It was so. I mean, serious in a good way, but it was so serious and it was so wrestling heavy, because at that time they knew they were losing the audience on the main roster. So they had to do everything possible to be the opposite of the main roster, which was necessary at the time. But the main roster's cooking now.
Yeah.
And the downside of how that was back then, with them being so opposite, was I do believe, looking back on it now, I didn't think it at the time. I do believe that's part. I mean, the other part is Vince. Let's be real. But
Absolutely.
But it was so jarring watching the people you loved in NXT in a new place, because that new place was the opposite of everything that NXT was marketing itself on. So now NXT has a little bit more of the sports entertainment elements. Triple H as a whole has brought the main roster a lot of the elements that worked from NXT. I think, no, there's going to be certain things we're never going to get back in NXT that were there in the beginning, but in the larger scope of, we just saw Julia kick ass on the Chicago show, add 5 years, she's going to be doing that at WrestleMania. I think those type of paths are a lot clearer now. So yes, we are missing stuff that didn't used to be on NXT, and yes, I will continue to miss them. The black canvas was the big thing for me, the small claustrophobic feel of it that we kind of got this week in well, it wasn't St. Louis, it was Chesterfield.
Yeah.
So there's some of that that's not going to come back, but the benefit of that outweighs the nostalgia, and you can always go back and watch the nostalgia. If you go on this channel, if you've been following this channel for a long time, I did do a series a while ago called NXT Rewind. There's about 6 or 7 episodes, starting from Arrival and the first couple of takeovers. I may or may not pick it up again, but those are there, and you can see the remnants of it in this NXT that they're doing now, getting back to the simple. It's not Black and Gold anymore, it's Black and Platinum, as I've dubbed it. But I think we may see a couple more of those things that did work, and maybe some of the things that didn't, like not having any things that were there just for the fun of it.
Yeah,
and like when somebody like a Shotzi Blackheart came in and she was fun, and I had seen her at Destiny. Yes, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. But she stuck out to me not only because I already knew who she was, but because she was a bit of a fun gimmick. And while the wrestling was awesome in Black and Gold, you didn't have a whole lot of things that existed to be fun, that existed to be ridiculous, and that is the other side of it. So a couple more things that wouldn't have necessarily made it onto the old NXT do make it on there now. So I think it's reaching a pretty cool medium. It's never going to please everybody. Some people are there just to shit on it because they just absolutely murdered Dynamite, but
but that's all they had to care about, sadly. And like you mentioned, we're at a point now where it is completely different. So what we got before is not as it should be now, realistically.
Yeah, well, I guess my point, my long rambling point there is the NXT that existed back then had to be counter to WWE because WWE was bad. WWE is killing it right now. And the other company that existed because WWE is bad is falling down because WWE is not bad anymore.
Exactly.
So it wouldn't do NXT any good to push back against something that's working. And like I say, everything's more fluid. It's Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Of course, they're going to have a better sense of synergy between their shows anyway. Seeing Triple H back for the debut episode so they could do the Are You Ready with Shawn Michaels. And, he's Papa H. He's Papa H of NXT. He's always going to be.
And it was great to see him there. And I get your point entirely. And that's why everything was so different when we started off at that point in time, because NXT didn't have anything really that existed. It was kind of like a network televised Ring of Honor. That was because Ring of Honor was only online, and I know NXT was too. Eventually went to TV, but my point is like we didn't really have any of that close to the mainstream. So for WWE to do this with an NXT, and to start bringing out those kind of matches and doing these certain things, it's like, oh, cool. This is working. This is good.
I think it also pushed against the whole idea, like. The prime example I always give is CM Punk and John Cena at Money in the Bank in Chicago, wrestler versus superstar.
Yeah.
Is if you had indie fans there, I could imagine for a time feeling like WWE was saying to you, this is what we do. We don't do that thing you like. Fuck off. NXT to those people must have seemed like an olive branch at the time.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was the biggest. I don't want to speak for those people because I'm not one of those people. It wouldn't be fair. But I imagine that it felt like a halfway house, like a arm extended across the line, whatever phrase you want to use.
Yeah.
But I first want to start out with something that I was happy to be wrong about.
Ooh.
I was trying to be realistic after all the hype from the first week in Chicago. The debut of this new, like I say, Platinum Era NXT.
Yes.
They got a great rating number, right? Obviously, they had the great attendance number as well. We didn't quite have that this week. And I think I was pretty realistic when we came up here to talk about it. And it's like, well, it's new NXT. It's on a new channel. It's on a new night. They're going to do a bunch of new stuff. I bet they got a whole bunch of curiosity views, and those curiosity views might not necessarily be there this week.
Yeah, and we'll see what carries over. And it pretty much almost held consistent. So.
And with competition, they maintained at 874.
Yes.
That competition on the other side, and sorry, this is where I get the sparklers out. If you don't like it, this is where you can depart.
Hey, we've been waiting for this for quite a while.
Hey guys, sorry for the jump cut. Even my recording software didn't want to hear how much AEW was slaughtered by NXT this week. So, back to what I was saying. 874 to 329. What do you want to say? Like,
I was shocked.
Even somebody who isn't really a fan of NXT, I wouldn't be wishing those kind of numbers on them.
No, certainly not, and nor was I expecting it to be so drastic. I mean, really, that's what it was. It was just a massively surprising turn that I didn't honestly see coming out to be this way. Honestly, I was just blown back by it.
So this is bad enough.
I thought they were going to be close. I thought it was going to be like 670 a piece each. Maybe Dynamite edges them out a little bit, but holy hell, this was an ass whooping.
And it's one of those, like, I didn't write down the demo because I think the demo argument is stupid.
Dynamite got a 0.1, which is, and all three shows combined don't even beat NXT that they had.
That was my exact point.
Yeah,
that was my exact point.
Dynamite,
329, 216, and 269 giggity. Get you a total. This is this week's Dynamite, last week's Rampage, last week's Collision.
And I'll give you this. I liked Hangman taking on Juice Robinson, and then it built to the return of Jay White. I like the match. There's just really not a story there, to get into.
That was Dynamite last week, right?
So
these numbers here, the ones I think we're looking at the same graphic. It's Rampage and Collision from last week, and then this week's Dynamite.
Yeah.
So 329, 216, 269 giggity gets you a total of 814,000 views, ratings, whatever the thing is, right? 814 for those three shows together to NXT's 874. And this is the show that's week 2. This is the show that didn't get as much hype, had the smaller attendance, had competition, and they still friggin' killed them.
Yeah.
But, I mean...
And part of that, I feel like the wheels are falling off Bryan Danielson at this point. I mean, he looks destroyed, and it's not just me saying this. Brian Alvarez, others have mentioned, they're like, he looks fucking wrecked. He needs spine surgery. His hands are numb. He's bruised and beaten up all over the place. That's what also makes me think that they're going to sell this where Moxley wins and he walks away. So you don't even have like a champion that feels strong at this point. And that shows as where you look on the other side, you have
like,
Trick.
What does it do? Like, if like I say, I do enjoy Mox. If I want to stand up for Moxley, stand up for John Moxley, # right? What does it get him to basically walk into this pay-per-view and kick the shit out of a half-dead dog?
That's what I'm getting at. You took the word from my mouth.
And what does it get you if you're a Bryan fan? Because I'm not the biggest Bryan fan, but obviously he's a great wrestler. What does it do for him to walk in there and play the role of the half-dead dog who's basically there to hand over his belt?
Essentially.
Other than we'll have another Bella crying on Twitter.
You're not wrong. And that's
and
what
it's
this
and,
whole...
and I mean it's Brie, it's not Amber Heard Bella, but it's the other one.
Yeah.
It is the other one. And here's the thing, right? All of a sudden, because WWE's winning, all of a sudden the ratings don't mean anything crowd have suddenly magically surfaced now. I don't know why. So let's just say that, right? Because we're coming into the age now, giggity, where WWE's going to be on Netflix. These guys are moving over to Max. I'm sure Elevation will come back onto, Twitter Live or something. I don't even know. So ratings won't be a conversation eventually, right?
Yeah, because it's going to be all streaming. And
so let's listen to the people who, especially this week, are suddenly saying ratings don't matter anymore because they're losing. Let's go to the one metric that you cannot argue with. And that's attendance. These guys, and I will say, I've said it for the past 2 weeks now, I would love it if NXT's numbers were bigger. I would love it if they hadn't had to change venues. I'm glad they did. I'm glad they took the L and did something appropriate with it. I would love it if they had bigger numbers, obviously. But let's keep in mind that their numbers were pretty neck and neck for attendance this week. Let's keep in mind that NXT is still the third show / developmental, whichever you want to call it, because it's kind of both.
Which it is, it's true.
Keep in mind, Dynamite is AEW's flagship 5-year strong show now, and it's a go home to a pay-per-view, and the attendances were sort of even, right?
Yeah.
But I want to go even deeper.
Ooh.
I want to go even deeper. Back in the day...
Turn me on, baby.
Sketch. I didn't have anything for that.
Got to derail you.
Can I offer you some topical cream?
Ooh.
Back in the day, you had WWF, WCW, and...
ECW.
Right. Okay. Nobody would ever expect an ECW crowd to match the size of a WWE or a WCW crowd. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, of course not. I mean, WCW had 40,000 fans packed in Georgia, to see Hulk Hogan, of course.
Yeah, the huge one where Goldberg finally won the title that had a ginormous crowd that should have been a pay-per-view. Yes. I wasn't even watching WCW at the time, and I'm like, why isn't this a pay-per-view? So, flash forward to today, we have WWE, including NXT. We have WWE, we have AEW, and we have...
Well, Ring of Honor is there, but not really.
Ring of Honor is part of AEW. NXT is part of WWE. We have WWE, WWE, AEW, and...
TNA.
There we go. nobody would ever expect TNA to outsell AEW, would you?
No, certainly not.
Okay, let me give you some numbers, bud.
Uh-oh, going deep indeed.
Dynamite sold 1,729 tickets. Now, TNA Hard to Kill sold 1,630 tickets, which is only 99 seats less than AEW's flagship show this week.
Yeah, so
Never
close.
mind the fact that little tiny TNA that everybody likes to pick on, except us, because we like TNA. NXT TNA is fine, it's good. Outsold by Victory Road by about 300, because they were about 2,000 plus. Now, go back even farther, Slammiversary outsold them by double, because Slammiversary sold 4,100 plus tickets to their show.
But the thing is like they're selling out consistently these small venues of 4,000 or 5,000 max. You know, that's pretty much, they know their audience, they know their capacity.
They know their size, they're sticking within their means.
Yes,
but
AEW isn't.
You could fit 2 Dynamites in this year's Slammiversary.
Exactly.
Attendance-wise. And
I don't want anybody to say it's just one show or it's an off week or they beat them one time for their WrestleMania pay-per-view. That doesn't get consistently they're being destroyed. You have the numbers. It's the facts here.
Yep.
It's a problem.
The only pay-per-views that they have listed that don't match those numbers, and to be fair, for anybody wondering, I am using Wikipedia for these numbers. Some TNA shows don't list their attendance. It's very possible that I could have more examples than I have written down here.
We could always have more evidence pointing to the contrary. That,
Also, if we accept that AEW's flagship show can't outdraw WWE's third slow/developmental, at least their pay-per-views could outsell a weekly episode of NXT, right?
Yeah, something, anything.
Last week's debut in Chicago, 7,089 people. Wrestle Dream as of today, 6,400.
And that's NXT. That's not Raw. That's not Bad Blood. That's not SmackDown. Every single PLE WWE has, they're literally repeating themselves. Do you notice that?
Oh my God, yeah.
They just consistently have to say, oh, this is the highest grossing gate ever, every single event they do, they're breaking
I will say,
records.
In all fair criticism to WWE, I really wish they would stick to attendance and not gate, because those gates that they're making are because some of those shows cost a stupid amount of money.
Yes, it is an arbitrary number.
I don't like them using that as their metric, because they're using that as their metric where they know the actual physical attendance isn't as great as they'd like it to be.
Yes.
So it's not a great.
But they've also done it where they've sold out as well at times.
For sure.
So it goes both ways with them. But yeah, I don't care for it as a metric, but it's a point that if you don't want to look at ratings and you can look at viewership, then you can look at actual attendance and ticket sales, and because it's not just attendance, it's ticket sales as well, because they're giving these tickets out in droves, and they still can't get people to go. Last week, I had a few different people reach out and be like, "Oh, did you want to go see Dynamite upcoming?" Because they're basically they're doing a 4-pack of tickets for whatever show that's coming for $80. And I'm like, that's not bad to go and see wrestling and have fun.
I'll tell you something. Destiny, check it out for Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's fine. Put out a graphic earlier this week with every show they're doing in 2025 listed on it. I've got about 15 or 16 reasons to say no to an AEW ticket if they come back to Toronto.
Yeah, and you're going to get more out of that ticket for far less, too, is the point. Because for the most part, not every
I saw Hammerstone kick the living shit out of Trent Seven's head.
Yes,
it was nice.
That's awesome. And these are the things that I feel like, AEW is lacking currently, sadly. It's just that you don't have that drive, the must-see. I knew with Dynamite, I was like, I'll see what happens next week then, and I'll watch it in the background in case there's anything like massive important to share. But essentially, really, it was just cannon fodder for the week, and this should be their big go-home show for a pay-per-view, but it's not working out like such. And see,
this is the thing, like it's not even as interesting as the Wednesday Night War, because we know back in those days when, like, they were running actually concurrently. So you guys I know you and Joe would mostly talk about AEW, so you'd be watching Dynamite, I'd be watching NXT, ready to do my own stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of throw a message back and forth. Am I missing anything that's worth not spoiling? And you'd be like, no, not really, or and Sting or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Sting or whatever, but yeah, it's Stinger.
What's the Sidge thing now? Sting or whatever, lick a tit or whatever.
I mean, NXT having,
but
like
I was,
you said,
but I,
895 to 874. They held consistent 2 weeks in a row, and this didn't have all the big makings of last week. Randy Orton is a draw, but I don't think he's as much of a draw as CM Punk is. A
lot of people were saying that, oh, it's a big thing about, Randy Orton can't draw, and it's like, okay, sure. It's still amazing. Like, I'm saying this as an NXT guy. These are amazing numbers for NXT.
And there's a lot of fans out there that would go to a Randy Orton show, maybe if it was against somebody. Javon Evans is a hard sell for people that might like Randy but don't know. Oh, who's he going to face? I'll go see Randy Orton. Oh, it's somebody from NXT.
Here's the thing where they may be leaning a little too much on the overlap, and that's fine. That's a discussion to have. If I go to see Raw with Randy Orton in the main event, I'm going to see Randy Orton. I'm sorry, if I went to this show this week for NXT, I'm going for the NXT people on NXT, and I'm kind of looking down the card and saying, oh, cool, Randy's on it too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going for Tony D and Stacks.
I would be too, but I'm saying, the main roster people, I don't think they gave them enough to really sink their teeth into with the Orton thing. And that was by design, intentionally, because they wanted to not have it feel like it was supposed to be an NXT show, not a main roster show. That was the point.
And
so that's what they were
going
for.
Ultimately, like, they did it based on the cities as well. Obviously, Punk in Chicago is an entirely different animal than anybody else going to their hometown. I would say right now, Punk in Chicago is bigger than Edge in Toronto, and where I sit with Edge, with Edge.
Yeah, exactly.
I was there for his quote unquote retirement SmackDown in Toronto. But
I was there when he announced his retirement all those years back. I was there in person.
But the way the Chicago fans love Punk, it's why they brought him back in Chicago.
Yes, exactly. They knew what they were doing.
Like, wrestlers will get a hometown pop, but CM Punk in Chicago is special.
He is the pop, yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing about it as well, and this is no dig on Randy Orton. Randy Orton is actually the most fun he's been in a long time. He's been accused at various points in his career of being boring, and sometimes those accusations were accurate, right?
Yeah.
First of all,
and he's changed a lot too.
First of all, CM Punk's never boring.
No.
Second of all, like, the people that do watch NXT do pay attention to more than just 2 hours on a Monday and 2 hours on a Friday. They know kind of what's going on, and they know that Punk belongs there more than Randy does.
Yes.
And again, I'm saying that in the most respectful way possible, but Punk very much is like putting down his roots in NXT and having an effect there and having an impact there.
Yes.
So him showing up at an NXT show is an entirely different animal than saying, oh, Randy Orton's coming to hang out for a night, which in itself is cool. They did some backstage stuff with him and whatever.
Yeah, and talking to Axiom and Nathan Frazier being like, oh, how fast is he? And that was a very cool thing to do. And people said it didn't put Javon over at all. The goal was,
it's even heartbreaking that RKO didn't work.
Yeah, because had it did, that was they rehearsed it a bunch of times too. I guess
you see the clip of them afterwards where he's like, looks like he's gonna cry, apologize, and I'm not mocking him. Like,
no,
he looks absolutely devastated, and Randy Orton basically, literally and physically picked him up and said, "No, kid, you're good."
Yeah,
like
brush it off.
It's not exactly stupid.
I mean, that's why I said that during the live review, I was like, it is heartbreaking that they didn't hit that, but that match was so much more because they brought Randy up to his pace for a little bit, and then they brought it down to Randy style, and they showed you a little bit of what both men, are known for, have to work with, however you want to put it, and it ended up being just overall really, really enjoyable.
And let's be honest too, like the style that Javon Evans does, and yeah, we talk about a lot of the ballerinas in AEW, and I only half mean it. If you're gonna have a botch or a mistake or something that doesn't quite go properly, it's going to be in that style of match. It opens itself up to so much like margin for error. So I don't know, like, it's one of those, am I shrugging it off partially because I still like the match and I'm biased towards NXT? Yes. Am I shrugging it off because it's a new kid having, like, the biggest match of his life by far, and I'm just happy for him? Also, yes.
You should, and well, I feel like it got him over. I feel like, because now not only is he in the triple threat next week for the number one contendership, and people are like, but he lost to Orton. Well, guess what? He made a good showing, so
yeah.
That's the point behind it. That's why I liked Ava being used in that moment. Now Nick Aldis has announced that
James Ellsworth goes into a match with Brock Lesnar and manages to last more than 5 minutes. I'm giving him an IC title shot after that.
Yeah,
I don't know why I picked James Ellsworth as an example there.
But you were going for somebody as pretty much low on the totem pole.
Yeah, somebody less expected of kayfabe-wise.
Exactly. So not only do we have Roman returning to SmackDown tomorrow, and they've got some other tag team stuff going on, but we're also getting Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill taking on Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. So that's going to be cool to have that on SmackDown. That was announced earlier. Yeah. And, Candice LeRae is the first women's speed champion.
Yeah. The speed title doesn't mean anything, but I'm glad they've given her something.
Hey, it's something for her, because a bunch of people were like, oh, she, DIY fell down a few steps losing the tag titles, and his wife does nothing. And I'm like, but she's helping people more backstage. There's so many more aspects to it,
what it is, too, and I might be getting soft in my old age as a wrestling fan, the whole, oh, my God, so-and-so is not doing anything right now, rah. Did we not learn anything from what's going on with Luchasaurus right now, with what happened to Bray, with what happened to Brody? Like, sometimes if you're not seeing somebody, like...
There's more to it.
Yeah, miss them. Like, say, hey, my favorite wrestler wasn't on this week. That kind of sucks. I hope they're back soon, whatever. But this whole, like, expectation of, oh, well, if they're not on TV this week, I better see a medical report. Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Like... I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not by much.
No, you're really not, because people are that just fucking ridiculous.
And you know what? But here's the thing, though. Like, I'm guilty of it too. We've done a lot more TNA coverage recently, and for a long ass time, I was shitting on the team of who was it? Masha Slamovich and Alicia Edwards, because I liked when Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly were MK Ultra. I thought they were a fantastic team. Oh my God, I hope they haven't written Killer Kelly out. I hope she hasn't moved on to another company or something. No, she went and had a kid. Good for her. I'm an asshole. It's fine. I'm not saying anything, guys. For anybody out there listening to me right now, I'm not saying anything that I'm not guilty of myself.
Yeah.
But I'm on no kind of podium to tell anybody how to be a better person, but we all need to be better. And don't go taking pictures of people's feet. It's weird.
Getting thrown out of the hotel twice.
Jesus Christ. Why was there an opportunity for it to be twice?
I don't know.
That's
bad. That was what baffled me too.
That's like, I'm gonna go burn a city down, but it's okay because a future presidential nominee is gonna bail me out. Anyways,
maybe we could put that on the wheel, make a deal, and let's spin,
Jesus
baby.
Christ.
Feet pictures. What is this? Start an OnlyFans. How is that on the board? No, see, Halloween Havoc.
A Kamala on whose pole match?
Oh God, where's that going?
Makes it
October 27th, Sunday, from Hershey, Pennsylvania. Tickets doing great. It's gonna be fun. Spin the wheel, make the deal. Such prior matches.
Havoc you're talking about. Sorry, I just lost my train.
Halloween Havoc.
I haven't seen the numbers for Havoc. Are they doing good?
They were doing good. So, and then this Tuesday, already coming up on NXT, we've got Stephanie Vacour making her, debut essentially in a singles match against Ren Sinclair. Lola Vice is taking on.
But Jake, haven't you heard she was never that good anyway? The minute she stepped on an NXT stage.
Yes, and you know what? I know you sent this to me, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
But you see Mercedes now saying that I played a role in WWE's decision to hire Stephanie. She said that she was signed by WWE days later. It turned out because we had a great match. And it's like, you think they weren't looking at her beforehand? They only showed interest. Things were already in the works. That's why she had to go ahead and just vacate the titles and couldn't finish it out, because things were already progressing for her. They wanted her to debut in the Mexico tour, and that's why they had her signed so quickly. This had nothing to do with Mercedes. And you know what? Stephanie got credit for that match because Mercedes looked like shit. And Stephanie did her best to try and basically sell that.
You know what I love? Even the AEW diehards that were basically hanging their hat on, we got Okada, we got Ospreay, we got Mercedes. It's the fucking hat trick. It's like, well, yeah, Ospreay's great. what the fuck is an Okada, and show me a good match that Mercedes has had that wasn't with Willow.
And her and Britt were terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I like Britt, but Jesus Christ.
And that was one of the excuses they used this week that really just blew my mind. So they said two things. They said, one, the hurricane and the weather played into the lower viewership for Dynamite, even though that didn't affect NXT. And then they also said, well, because we announced earlier in the night that Britt wouldn't be there because she was sick, that's also why people didn't tune in. So she hasn't been on the show for months.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Almost a year.
Britt was supposed to face Willow initially, right?
Yes.
Did anybody think that... I like Britt. Don't get me wrong. Let me be clear once again. Mrs. Cole, baby, and all that. Did anybody think Britt Baker was winning that match?
I don't think so. I mean...
I think if anything, if I can give AEW credit for anything, it seems like they're finally putting a bit of a rocket on Willow.
Yes, a bit.
So,
thankfully.
A bit. I don't think she's going to win on the weekend, but...
I don't think so either, but there's story there, and at least there's something going on a little bit, you know? She
Stats gone face again? Is that the deal?
Apparently. Which
they just basically had her and Stokely break up because
they got her to go away from Stokely, and that was it. And it's like...
So, okay, now that all the managers are trading wrestlers, who does Stokely get?
Yeah, it's like, who goes where with him?
I want to see... Oh, no, he's not, because Beast Mortos is with Jake the Snake Roberts now, for reasons. I was going to say, Stokely Hathaway managing Beast Mortos would be something I would give a chance to. This is a bad comparison, but Stokely with Beast Mortos would be like... It would be the best version of Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar that AEW could come up with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways... I don't know. It's every conceivable. And yeah, are they going to bounce back next week? Sure. Are they going to have a decent pay-per-view? Are the matches on the night going to deliver? Some of them? Sure. The ratings conversation is going to get a lot more fun by the end of the year, man.
I hope so. I mean, it seems like it certainly, but in this, vein of everything going on right now, I don't know. It seems like there's a lot out there, and people are loving things. I mean, you had Bully Ray praising Julia. He said she looks mint, 10 out of 10. He said that's an old school word for you, mint. He said I love the simplicity. She kind of had a look of like Sandy from the Grease movies with the leather jacket. Yep. And he's like, the outfit was busy. I liked the other ring gear, and she looked just amazing. He said the outfit did not make Julia. Julia made the outfit, and she looked amazing the week before. And I agree. And it's
and you know what?
Night and day difference for the women's division.
I'll say this for NXT, right? It wasn't quite the same. Obviously, nothing's going to replicate what AEW did the night that they brought back Adam Cole and Daniel Bryan in the same night. Legitimately, we've talked about it before. I messaged you that night, and I said I think we might be fucked.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean...
But, so we haven't had anything quite like that. But bringing in Julia, having her immediately in the title picture, and then having her immediately bring in Stephanie Vaquer as backup, I think that's the closest WWE's had in a while to a double shot.
Yeah, I mean...
they're still previewing Delta as well with those Furiosa-like vignettes.
Yeah, Nikita Lyons is back.
Nikita Lyons is back as well, and people are already saying, well, why does that matter? We got real wrestlers now. Why do we need her? I'm like, because it's a developmental program, you fuckwits.
They just failed to understand
and Cora Jade.
That.
And, like, is Cora Jade going to give you 10 stars in the Tokyo Dome, brother? No, but her and Roxanne, both as babyfaces and as people in a feud, and now both as heels, they've got chemistry.
And they do indeed. And one other thing I wanted to touch on before is that we were talking about the TNA connection still and the NXT deal. And I saw some people both on Twitter X and on the Reddits going ahead and bitching, being like, oh, that was short-lived, huh? And I'm like, you have Jordan, Masha, and Sol Ruka taking on Wendy Chu, Rosemary, and Tasha Steelz tonight.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you smoking?
And it's funny because it hasn't been...
No exaggeration. What the fuck are you... What kind of crack you got, Cher? Yeah. Because...
I will say, like, to be fair, TNA has sent their biggest stars to NXT, and NXT is sending their middle stars to TNA. But I think that's by design.
Yes,
like
it is.
Your biggest stars in TNA are coming over to NXT to get the publicity of the bigger machine. Like, let's be real and say what it is, because that makes them look good and it makes TNA look good, and they want to put their best foot forward on a slightly larger platform, and it's helping TNA. TNA is breaking their own records, as we talked about WWE. The other side of that is, what can NXT get from TNA? What they can get is their people with less experience, like their Sol Rukas, like their Wendy Chus, and those types of people, like their Charlie Dempseys that have gone over there. They can get experience somewhere else other than NXT, which was WWE's biggest criticism for the longest time. It's like, oh, you come up in the WWE system, it's just like they crank you out of a superstar factory. You don't ever learn anything else. What are we doing here now? And Sol Ruka against Jordan Grace a couple weeks ago was fantastic. I don't know if you saw, I'm not the biggest Jonathan Gresham guy. I'm not saying he's a bad wrestler, but it's just not. He doesn't
someone
quite,
you care for.
He doesn't quite grab me. But he's the type of technical wrestler that as soon as you tell me, oh, we're getting Jonathan Gresham versus Charlie Dempsey, that was fucking fantastic, because those are two guys that were made to wrestle each other.
Yes, and that worked without different level.
Without the negative connotations of the two guys that I'm about to mention, that's a Benoit Guerrero pairing.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong, and you know, there's quite a few people like that I have been finding myself gravitating towards more just recently, because of, you know, what's going on with the connection, and people that I kind of not undermined, but at least didn't find myself enjoying or watching much of. You know, it just didn't have that intrigue. But now seeing them with TNA and being involved, I'm like, hey, let me give this a chance. And I found myself enjoying it much more and not having to endure. That was what I was getting at before. Wrestle Dream is coming up this weekend. They've got all these matches, and really, I'm curious, like I said, about the Moxley angle, but there's nothing that I feel is must-see. As where Bad Blood had multiple moments of it. I mean, not only did we get the amazing, one of the best.
Wrestle Dream this weekend, if I even remember that it's on. I'm sorry, like, it's also a holiday long weekend for us up here, so I do legitimately have other stuff going on. If I put it on, I'm putting it on because it's some wrestling that's on. Bad Blood I put on because there's shit going down.
And I know I wouldn't find myself paying for this pay-per-view. There's nothing on here that I want to pay to see, and that's unfortunate. And they had this deal coming out with Max. I was hoping that they were going to be like, oh, we're going to do what Peacock does and start streaming on Max with our... But no, they're not going that way either. So
you just order your pay-per-view through Max.
Yeah. You get a little bit of a discount, they said, but I don't know how much that
because
discount
people are looking at what AEW is giving them right now and saying, I'm not paying $60 for this. Fuck off.
Well, especially since you already have to pay for the subscription on Max to get it, too. So it's like, oh, now I'm, $80 in the hole instead of, whatever, $60 per se. So that's the unfortunate BS that happens.
I'm sorry, I know it used to be like it for everybody. We used to do the same thing with WWE, but when there are so many more options, when there was so much... See, he doesn't agree either.
He doesn't agree at all.
When there's so many other options and everybody that you're trying to compete with is giving stuff for literally half the price, how do you think you're getting away with charging people $60 for this shit? Even if it was good, no, and I say this shit, I mean, like, even if it was good. I don't know.
And that's the thing, like, even if it is good, it's like, it just doesn't always feel, like I said, watchable, must-see. And Bad Blood, we've had recently a string of PLEs where it was, hey, we're overseas, so we're not going to be in our normal time slot. We're not going to be, really pushing anything great deal of story because we don't have our usual audience.
And this one was even time shifted because of UFC, but it didn't really bother me.
No, the hour difference, I actually enjoyed it being over earlier, in the sense if I watch live, but
yeah.
I said before on the live show that we did that Triple H really conditioned his audience to enjoy the 3-hour 5-match card.
Yep.
Get out kind of idea, with all the takeovers never really being over 3 hours. Typically all of them were 5 matches, and you had what deserved to be on the card, not DEI inclusions. It wasn't like, oh, well, we need to have two women's matches.
Okay, let's start with that, because there's a lot of amazing stuff on this card. I'm not going to be as high on it overall as I usually am, and I think as you are. The great stuff is great. The stuff that I felt a bit flat. Can we talk about the fact that we did not need those three to host?
No, certainly not.
I mean, yes, I'm biased. I don't really like Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair was not nearly as offensive in her appearance on NXT this week. I said it on your show, so credit for that. I really want Jade Cargill to break out and do some solo stuff, and Naomi's also there. But
you know what's kind of cool too is like you said, there was something for everybody again. And that's silly to say, like, of course, but no, really, there's something there for everybody. Everything on this card was designed that, hey, if you're not into the hardcore kind of, blood-inducing monstrous nightmare that is the Hell in a Cell match, okay, we got you with the shark cage comedy angle. Or if you don't want that, then you got a little bit more serious with the Bloodline division. Like,
WWE being the buffet is not even anything that's in question anymore. And I'm saying across the board: Raw, SmackDown, NXT pay-per-views, international shows, Big Four shows.
But for so long it was, and a lot of this year wasn't progressing either because of the PLEs being overseas. So Bad Blood really stood out because so much noteworthy news happened.
From that perspective, absolutely. I did not need. Especially, the hosting thing seemed a bit egregious anyway. It was an excuse for them to have, like, a party in the back and show that all the legends were there. Supposedly there was, like, over 15 legends that were signed to...
Legends deals, yeah.
Oh,
DDP.
You hear this, though? They got rid of the terminology. They are not Legends deals anymore.
Oh, no.
They are nostalgia contracts. And
okay.
I think that kind of fits a bit better.
Yeah, because
every now and then you hear about somebody. I mean, Candice Michelle came victim to it, and Summer Rae came victim to it when they announced them in the crowd. Oh my God, WWE legend Summer Rae, and everybody's like, "How dare you call her a legend?" It's like, why do you care?
Yeah, but that is a great point, because when you first said, "Oh, making it nostalgia," I was like, "Well, what's the difference? What's the need?" But no, you're right. I mean, really, that's what it boils down to is the fact of that little discrepancy and that
because nostalgia
point
just
of contention.
Nostalgia is just something you remember fondly, right?
Yeah.
Legend has that. It opens the door for assholes to say, they're not a legend. It's like, okay, it's a nostalgia thing. Like when R-Truth retires. R-Truth is nostalgia back to the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, he's definitely a nostalgic. I mean, you can call him a
talk
legend
about
too,
Black
but...
Don't Crack. God damn. I mean, he looks exactly
He looks younger than me.
I know. And he looks exactly the same as what he did when he debuted. You had K-Quick and then fucking... what was he in TNA?
He was just Ron Killings.
Ron Killings, okay, yeah. And then, obviously the R-Truth.
Yeah.
And,
no, that's what it was. It was Ron the Truth Killings.
Okay.
And they shortened it to R-Truth when he came back.
Yeah.
But, like... I don't get. I do like it. I think it's a more pleasant. It doesn't matter what they call it. They've got people that used to work here contracts, right?
Yeah.
But nostalgia contracts sounds nice. It sounds pleasant and positive and all that kind of thing. So to have the party in the back hosted by the ladies and Jey Uso is just like yeeting in the background for like no particular reason.
Yeah.
It was fun, but I feel like there was like however many of those segments we got, it feels like we got one too many. And that's just me, and I've got my biases attached to it. I didn't need them starting the show and announcing the Hell in the Cell like it was a part of the party.
Yeah.
That was a bit... And I'm nitpicking. I'll acknowledge. I will fully acknowledge that I'm nitpicking, but it's WWE's own fault. They've got me holding them to a high standard now, and we said it about NXT for years.
Yeah.
I'm going to get on NXT more if they do something that pisses me off, because I expect a higher standard from them. I expect a higher standard from the main roster. So when you're doing shit like this, and you've got this awesome story that you've told with Drew and CM Punk, and I don't need showgirls coming out and saying, "And here's the Hell in the Cell," like it jarring. Like I know it's probably not the right word to use, but jarring is the word.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree, because I mean that's really a great point, and a lot of people were upset that Hell in a Cell wasn't the main event. I get why they changed it because of The Rock coming in last, and again,
I still hold that opinion even with The Rock. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
It's the biggest thing going on in wrestling.
Yes. It should have been the main event regardless, and I agree. But the thing is that I feel like it's like, hey, some of this is I think an intentional story with them.
Yeah.
I think because, again, it's, CM Punk gets screwed by The Rock, and he even said on Twitter, fuck your main event. So I think they might do something at some point. I swear. There's got to be something.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I don't like the fan discourse of like, WWE testing Punk one more time to see if he'll crack. And I'm like, first of all,
that's not what's going on here.
That's an AEW tactic. Second of all, why would you want a company to operate that way?
I don't know, and it's like, why would you want them to be vindictive or spiteful, or isn't that why we got rid of Vince? Isn't what we worked hard to achieve? Like, seriously, at this point, it's like, why are you considering that?
The only way I can make sense of that is if they are AEW defenders and they want to turn around and say, look, it's not just us, WWE does it too. Except they don't, because we're in better WWE times.
Yeah.
This is what I will never understand, and you and I have been over this 100 times. We will admit the shitty things that WWE has done. We will admit the shitty times WWE went. I sent you and Joe the picture of SmackDown with the tarps, and the only guy that got a pop that night was Jinder fucking Mahal, because Jinder Mahal was always over in Toronto.
Yeah, go figure.
But it's like, I'm not asking you to suddenly turn on the thing that you like. Anything I ever say here, and I'm repeating myself now, anything we say here about AEW is not us telling anybody if AEW is their thing to not like it. It's more so, I don't like it, I'm going to laugh. If it's your thing, why are you not standing up and expecting more from your thing?
Yeah.
That sounds like a Viagra ad, but I didn't mean it that way.
But why are you not demanding a better, all around, whatever it might be, better show, better. And like I said, I really wish it was the main event, but has there ever been a show, or not a show, but a match that you then look back on differently because it wasn't the main event?
I was willing to give it, like if something, I know The Rock coming back is gigantic. In the storyline world of WWE, the biggest thing that can happen is The Rock coming back, even though it's happened already this year, right? I was willing to say, like, if something massive happened, like the entire bloodline, both sides, came face to face, and we ended on a huge fucking brawl.
Or a major cliffhanger, or something that was like, I see that point too, and that's it. I guess it was just that I know that it didn't take away from the match not being the main event. It should have been, and I understand what they went with, but it certainly felt odd being especially the opener. It certainly hurt a few of the other matches. I mean, you had Nia Jax be the direct follow-up to that, so already it was going to be an insurmountable hill to climb with her there, pun intended.
I think obviously you got the opener in the main event, and it's a sandwich. Everything in the middle is the meat. Yes. I think especially, not just because it came after Hell in the Cell.
And a lot of meat Nia's got.
Fair. You know what? She's doing okay. She's
been all right, and that's the
thing. There was a lot of
other
awkward
matches a lot more. I really have.
Thing. I feel like because these two have worked together so well, they think they have more Sorry, it's for so long because they've referenced their history in NXT, which is quite a pullback. I've actually reviewed one of those matches in my NXT Rewind series, so that's how far we're talking, like 2014, 2015. We're talking about 8-9 years ago. Exactly. So they have a lot of history to pull, but I think because they have a lot of history to pull, they overestimated the amount of not charisma. What's the word I'm looking for? Chemistry.
Chemistry.
I think they overestimated the amount of things they had, because you could see where things fell apart in the match, and you could see both of them working to get through it and working to get the boat back on the wave, or whatever expression you want to use. So
because they were certainly trying. I mean, you saw.
Oh yeah, no, don't doubt the effort. Don't doubt, like Bayley.
Well, people were. That's why I wanted to mention.
Yeah.
That,
okay. No, but in my retelling here, I'm not doubting the effort.
I know you're not.
And you can feel it, like when you see them fuck up, and you can see them both visually trying to pull it back together. They don't need my sympathy at all.
No.
But they had some, because you've hit a couple of speed bumps here, and you're doing this right after the Hell in the Cell, so you're already fucked.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get, and it goes for all three of the middle matches. I'm sorry. They all felt like they could have been really good segments on Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah.
To me. Not to say that they were bad, but they could have been segments on, especially when, as you say, smaller shows. There's stuff that happened on this week's Raw. Like, swap out these three matches. Take all three of them out. Give me Sammy Gunther. Give me Xavier Woods, Jey Uso. Give me the ladder match from SmackDown.
And I get that's a problem because that's a double-edged sword there. Like, you need people to tune into Raw still. And that's where the IC title should be, like, your focal point. I get what they were going for.
But you're creating a contrarian conversation among the fans, and I'm doing this in good faith. You got other people out there that are doing it in horrible faith, right?
Absolutely.
But I looked at that ladder match on SmackDown was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so
and that could have been a great show.
If I'm sitting there being super opinionated about things, I mean, I'm never super opinionated about things.
No, never.
But if I'm carrying the flag into that pay-per-view of, wow, that ladder match really should have been on the card, I'm subconsciously going to look at every other match on the card with that, like, okay, why are you here? Why isn't the ladder match I wanted here?
Yeah,
like,
how did you earn that spot, or did you earn it at all?
Because you're putting so much of this pay-per-view level stuff onto the shows, it puts, not intentionally, obviously, but it puts even more scrutiny on the five matches that make the card.
Absolutely.
It's unfair to the wrestlers. I'm not saying it's fair to the wrestlers, but if Triple H insists on keeping this 5-match format, that's a scrutiny they're going to run into.
I agree. Now,
Nia Jax won. There was a little bit of, and again, it was just another fake out. Tiffany's going to cash in. No, she's not. And they've been doing that week to week, which makes it feel even more like it felt like a segment. And I think that's my like, when I say things fall flat, I think this could have been really cool on TV and something pay-per-view worthy that had an ending with no fuckery in it could have been here. My example is going to be the ladder match. I'm sorry, but it is.
Yeah, no, but that's a great example. And, you know, the Sami Zayn match definitely could have been on there. Even the IC title match with Xavier Woods, because there was implications with that going forward. So, I mean, there was quite a few things that they could have done that they didn't, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm also kind of bummed that there wasn't a bigger trigger pulled on Raw, because Xavier Woods finally getting his first singles title off of Jey Uso, who's super over, through scheming means, being the final nail in the coffin between him and Kofi, and leading into a proper Woods-Kofi thing, could have been huge. Could have been
massive.
really. Yeah.
And I agree with that entirely. And that's kind of the thing. You know, we could admit the faults, the less thans, the misses, whatever you want to label it as. And I've just found myself lately criticizing less in my own mind, because the stories make sense and things are progressing naturally. I don't have that, what the fuck are we doing here, kind of perplexed look on my face. And unfortunately, like I said, it's not all the time, but most of the time with AEW, you have that "but why" feeling, as you just brought up, and that's a great thing to really encapsulate. You know, why is this on here? Why? How did this earn this spot? How did it? You know, because as you said, we've got.
But again, you can bring it. But again, you can bring it back to a positive again, because if WWE wasn't doing so well, then a spot on a WWE pay-per-view wouldn't be such a coveted spot.
Exactly.
So even the negative has a positive attachment to it. Like, I know we skimmed over the Hell in the Cell match as far as the placement goes. When we get to the end, I want to talk about how actually good that match was. Damian Priest, Finn Balor, talk about me having high expectations, because these guys had really good matches in NXT.
Yeah.
This was just a match.
Yeah.
This was Damian Priest playing the role of anybody that's facing anybody from the Judgment Day.
Yeah, it didn't have anything special. There was no gravitas. There was nothing that was like, oh my God, we have to, you know, this concluded their angle. Nothing felt finite or finished. He beat Finn, but it's like, so what? You know, he screwed you over, all this. You beat him in a match, but I don't know. It doesn't feel like you really got your revenge just because you got a win here. So it was unsatisfying.
I should say this as well to balance out my thing. All these nitpicks that I'm coming back with now are after the fact.
Yes.
The whole 3 hours that I was watching this show, I was having a good time. because WWE has made WWE land. And when you're in WWE land, you're having a good time.
Absolutely.
Seeing Damian and Finn, because you know they're buddies, and that's another thing for me. Like, I know these guys are buddies in real life. I know they're probably having a blast. That does elevate it. But
yes.
It's the fact that so specifically, I wanted to say this about Jackson Bailey as well, but even more with these guys. Like, I have seen these guys have better matches than this.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So it was good. I don't even think the match was bad if I look at it objectively.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't great.
You made the mistake of setting high expectations in my head, and I'm not dropping them now.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Yeah, the typical
they
run-in.
gave us those expectations. They made us feel that way.
Yep.
So it's on them to keep that going.
It's weirdly a cool thing. I'm glad that they can disappoint me, because before, when we expected shit, it was really hard to disappoint us. So now
because all we got was shit. Absolutely. So we were so conditioned.
So the fact that we can be disappointed now, even that is good, in a sense. Rhea Liv, great match. This was
a lot of fun.
This was a lot of fun, and then the end fell apart.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't supposed to be a DQ finish, but the referee saw and couldn't just completely be like, I didn't see anything, so he had to call the DQ, and then, she threw Liv on top of Rhea, even though the bell already rang, so that looked even worse, and it just kind of, I don't know. It was a fun match, but like you said, Dom, she's beating the crap out of him, but instead of winning the title, and
I thought the what they did with Dom in the cage and him hanging and her doing the piñata, thing,
that was good.
Here's where I'll defend it, all right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, it totally breaks the story that she just told the referee to basically pause the match, and I do understand that criticism. I could have done without the referee cam. I really don't know what they're trying to do with that. But
it's just another gimmick when they get into their gimmicks. They're like, hey.
It's a miss for me. It's like, remember when they had the cameras on the ring posts for a while?
Yes.
And basically what you got was a bunch of accidental ass and junk shots.
Yep.
But what they did here was she basically said, the idea is that everybody, right down to the referees, knows that Dom deserves this. So even the referee said, yeah, go take a quick swipe at him, right? Mm-hmm. And everybody said, oh, that breaks it. Oh, so she just told him to ignore the rules. Here's the thing. You'd have a point with that if we didn't have all kinds of matches all the time that brawl outside the ring and the referee doesn't call for a disqualification, and then commentary says, oh my god, the referee, he knows how important this title match is, he doesn't want it to end like that, he's using his discretion. So the referee's discretion is built into WWE lore.
Yeah.
Now the fact that Rhea Ripley went and literally asked for it, it may be over the top for some, and I do see it, I just don't agree. I think it made the moment. I think for the referee to be like, yeah, go get him. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no,
I understand. It's like Joker 2. I understand the criticism, but I still enjoyed it.
He wasn't going to call her out and be like, no. Oh, by the way, I'm going to count you out. And because, but the story at that point is like, hey, Rhea's whooping her ass and she can have this match won, but she needs to enact a little bit of justice. And that justice that blinded her is what led to her getting.
Yeah, and the justice is so obvious that the referee allowed it.
Yeah.
Is the thing, right? I think the whole thing at the end was kind of a mess. The interference that led to the disqualification that wasn't supposed to be a disqualification. All of that mess could have been avoided if the person coming back was huge. And I want to say this without sounding like an asshole, because I know this is going to make me sound like an asshole. I can't imagine all the medical shit that Raquel Rodriguez has gone through in the past little while, all the internal skin stuff, and she's been off and on and bedridden and all that. Can't imagine it. All the sympathy in the world for her. On a human-to-human level, glad she's better, glad she's back, glad she's doing what she loves to do. Outside of that, as far as how much I hold this story in regard between Liv and Rhea, as an interferer in that setting, I couldn't have given a shit less, man.
Yeah.
I get that she's just going to go in there and be Diesel to Liv Morgan's Shawn Michaels like she was for Dakota Kai way back in the day. Yeah. I get it. Of course,
we've seen that role, and it's just very tired. It's an old cliche that has been done to death, and there was nothing really exciting about her returning or that made you, like you said, give a damn and care. And that's the unfortunate part of it.
And the thing is, I'd be a lot more kind to the fact that she's not a great surprise if the spot hadn't also been botched.
Yeah.
Like, if it was a perfect spot with her, cool.
If it was better.
If it was a botched spot with a bigger star, like if she's got a new heater and that new heater is the returning Ember Moon or something like that. Something really cool, something totally unexpected, something, hey, we scored another point on AEW because they never put her on AEW television. But keep in mind, Triple H is the racist one. Then, yes. But the fact that it's not that great a surprise, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to sound like a bad human. Like I say, I have to reiterate, I'm glad she's okay. I'm glad she's medically fine or whatever. I'm glad she's back to work doing what she wants to do. Fantastic. On a human level, awesome. Couldn't be happier for her. Didn't give a shit in context. And the fact that I didn't give a shit and that the entire reintroduction was also kind of botched, they got to do some work to come back from that. And I get the whole, of course, if you're Liv Morgan, of course you're going to get a heater because it's fucking Rhea Ripley.
Yeah.
I wish that Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio were sort of a gimmick on their own doing something else, and I wish that somebody else had the title so that Rhea Ripley could chase it, so that would feel fresh, but that her wanting the title would still be relevant.
I feel that.
I don't know. I'm trying to give them the credit where it's due, but I can't gush. I can't do what AEW fans do and pretend everything's great.
No, and that's the thing. It's not like it was terrible by any means. Mm-hmm. It certainly wasn't, but...
And Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns versus the Bloodline existed so that The Rock could come back.
Yeah.
Yay!
And now we might get a triple threat match. We might get, we hear all these different rumors, and it's like, all right, I love The Rock, I've always been a fan of his, and a little less now, but still, I'm excited to see him return, and I'm curious where the story goes. Solo said this was all part of the plan.
Yep.
So let's see how this plays out. I will say the biggest pop
this match, and yes, there is a huge mega powers coming together moment. They had their way over the top entrances from WrestleMania. That was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to see them interact. It was fun to see Roman get pulled down from the ring, and the camera work was great so that it looked like he had short-armed Cody. All of the stuff that we knew was going to happen happened, and then we got to point at it and say, hey, there's the thing we said would happen. It was all good. It did exactly what it needed to do. It kept the true main event debut of Jacob Fatu kind of under wraps, because he's still, even though he's right in front of your face, he's still a secret in their back pocket, which I think is really, really cool. I think they're simmering that along just right. I'm sorry, from my personal viewing experience, Jimmy got a bigger pop than The Rock.
I think so too. People were just so excited to see him return.
They did, but whatever has kept him off TV the past little while, he looked more electrified, pun intended, to be there than anybody else on that card that night. When he pulled the band, okay, they have to stop doing the hoodie and the bandana thing because they're going to get other accusations. But you saw him pull down, and the look on his face, I know it's the Rock thing, but I can only say the electric look on his face when he pulled the thing down right before. Like, he stared down Solo, he stared down Jacob, and he kind of did, like, he super kicked the Tongans on the outside, but it was almost like a no-look super kick.
Yes.
Which was really fucking cool. And out of the Usos, for a while there, like, Jay was obviously the one that was going to get the singles push. They removed him from it. They put him on Raw. They've got him on the track that he's on now. There was that concern, and I hate to say it this way, that, like, Jimmy was going to end up being the Jannetty. And then he became funnier and, like, more erratic with his behavior and his, like, almost desperate need to still be accepted by Roman. Like, he'd been gaslit worse than Jay. But he came back, and, like I say, he was like a firecracker, and he popped off, and the big hug with him and Roman got the pop.
They really did, too. I mean, they came back together to see them reunite
really
was an awesome moment.
And then Jimmy looking at, hey, this is my big cousin Roman. I want him to be the hero that I see him as, and saying, we got to go help Cody. That was cool.
That was a great moment as well.
That was the equivalent of, I can't remember whether Jimmy said it or Jay said it now, the whole, you're out the bloodline. and so am I. Super kick. Like,
Yeah.
it was that kind of thing, but off mic, which makes it even better. With the Bloodline, you notice, like, they can come out and they can do a million promos, but the couple of seconds here and there that happens off mic is the best, like, little nuanced drama type things.
Oh, absolutely. And we say this after seeing them film the Kevin Owens Cody stuff.
Oh, yeah.
By not filming it and letting the fans record it. So, I mean,
I think that's really cool, too. I think just doing it on the show would have been weird. I wish it would have been weird, because we got to talk about the big ugly Saudi belt.
that thing apparently is a shoot, too, as well. It's very expensive, all the gems and stuff on it.
It belongs to Saudi, and somebody's going to wear it for a night.
Yeah, it is their blood money, and
like,
now Punk's taking time off to not apparently be at the Saudi show, which
I will say what I said on Twitter. They announced the Blood Money Championship at Bad Blood.
Yes.
Fantastic. But anyways, so skipping past that, because everybody's already spoken about that, really. The whole idea that it's going to be champion versus champion, and then you're going to be the crown jewel champion. So obviously Cody versus Gunther. But we had the chance for it to be Sammy instead if Sammy had won on Raw. Here's the thing. I don't want Gunther to not be champion. So this is going to sound a bit ridiculous. I wish Sammy had won so that we could have Cody versus Sammy, because Cody's dealing with the bloodline. Sammy has ties to the bloodline. Sammy has ties to Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens just turned on Cody, but Kevin Owens also has like, Sammy would have been the perfect person to drop into that match, even just for one night.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was one of the things I was kind of hoping that would come about from Raw. Because, I mean, the main takeaways from Bad Blood, and this being the fourth Bad Blood and the fourth Hell in a Cell match ever at Bad Blood. So, I mean, that's kind of cool, too. Every Bad Blood has had a Hell in a Cell. Michaels, right. Undertaker, Triple H, Nash.
And, I mean, I'm sorry, that's another reason why it should have been the main event.
I do agree as well with that. So, crazy that it was, that many years from the day. Same day, October 5th.
Yeah, 27 years?
Yeah, 27, I think it was.
Same type of match. Okay.
So 20 years since the last one.
It wasn't the main event then, but it's going to be the main event of this pod. Cause
it was a 31-minute match. I mean, and it's going to be one of my favorite matches of the year, probably hands down, and probably the best match of the year. I mean, just in so many ways, and they just upped it without doing anything stupid. It felt like a legit blood feud. It felt like, holy shit, we're really seeing these guys tear each other apart, and everything. And WWE, just stepped it up piece by piece.
WWE gave these guys a pass, I guess, because there was no lack of blood, no syringes, no cinder blocks.
No, but 16 staples in
16
Drew's
staples
head.
in Drew's head. Jesus Christ.
I hate staples. I'll tell you that. Head staples are awful. It's when it starts to heal, they pull. As where stitches can be a little bit tight, the staples pull and they dig, and it's irritating. I had Danny remove my head and back staples when I had surgery.
I'll tell you, the only surgery I've had, I was so young that they physically couldn't give me stitches. They had to tape me shut.
Yep. See,
so I don't, and I was too young to remember. So I'm kind of glad.
Yeah, you doubled up on the health there.
A lot of people are talking about the toolbox spot as the main sort of, he cracked him open and all that kind of thing. Everybody was bleeding.
Yeah. He was going to get cracked open regardless. It was coming.
Have all the conversation and discourse you want about the reintroduction of the beads from the bracelet. I thought that was a pretty cool spot. CM Punk.
I love that spot.
Right after the Rascals did it on NXT to a little bit of success with the chain wrapped around the legs. Punk did it properly, and they actually had a clip in the chain, so you didn't have to worry about it like unraveling or whatever. I thought that was a basically learn from somebody else's mistake, but it stayed in place perfectly. And it's not like he was hitting him with the chain; he was hitting the chain with Drew's head. And I know that's not much of a distinction, but it is a distinction. So the chain itself kind of got to stay in one place rather than being moving. I'm sorry, man. The grossest thing, and I know I'm comparing it to somebody getting their head busted open. Everybody's talking about that Claymore that missed, and he landed on a bit of the edge of the stairs. And it's like you don't have a tailbone anymore. Like, everybody's going to talk about the blood, everybody's going to talk about the 16 staples, but Drew McIntyre doesn't have a tailbone anymore.
He's definitely, missing some vertebrae.
Drew McIntyre, it wasn't even on Raw. I mean,
no.
CM Punk hobbled out on Raw. But This match was great. Everybody's like,
and I liked a little bit of doubt. Like Punk's like, I'm a winner, but I don't feel like one, and I have a lot of questions, and I don't know how much I have left in me. So we're getting this self-doubt.
And he had enough.
He
had enough adrenaline and energy and rage fuel in him, or whatever metaphor you want to use, to get the win, walk out of the cage, and not even make it all the way to the back.
Yep. And he's like, I don't know why people doubt me, but I hope you keep doubting me.
CM Punk is a wrestler's wrestler. He's there for the graps, right? Like, give him all the credit in the world. But goddamn, the guy knows cinema. And I know we're overusing that word these days.
Kiss my ass. That's what it's for. It is cinematic to the T. Yeah. And I like, he's like, I haven't seen my wife in 5 weeks. I have a lot of flowers to buy. I'm going home. And once your blood money bullshit is over, I'll be back. Rollins comes right out.
I was going to say, what's the last thing you see of CM Punk? Him bumping shoulders with Seth Rollins in a very Julia Stephanie Vacour, hello, old friend.
You want to know, for me, one of my favorite moments of Raw this week, honest to God, was backstage with Pierce and Ego, just because they went ahead and had, Paige back there, the real Paige, and they had him going ahead and demanding, basically, retribution from Punk, essentially costing him the title, even though he didn't, but he still got involved in his business.
Yeah. But you know what I like too, because people always will say, oh, well, why is Ava even there? Like, does she work on every show, or does she just work on NXT? And she even said, I'm not dealing with you right now. I'm off the clock.
Yeah.
So she was a guest.
Yep.
That's what she was doing.
I love that Pierce was like, it's my star, but I didn't make the match. And she's like, not dealing with you today.
Pierce is like, that happened on NXT, it's not my problem. Ava says, I'm not working right now, it's not my problem. It sounds like a you problem. And then he tells off friggin' Sexy Red, which we totally forgot to talk about last night on NXT or 2 nights ago. But the whole I don't know, Ethan Page.
The interruption of Sexy Red's performance, and his tweet afterwards was great too.
Oh my god. I don't think we see Ethan Page get back up to the NXT title again, but I do think he's not long for NXT. Because I can see, as long as they both stay heel, I can see sort of a like assholes combined type situation with him and The Miz.
Yeah, exactly. And the way they tied it together,
all ego awesome.
There's a lot he can do. He never felt like he was made for at NXT, really. Like, I always felt like this is just going to be a quick stop for him. He's going to go there, reestablish his namesake, and then make his way up. And he did exactly what they needed him to do. He showed up at the perfect time to get the belt off of Trick without Trick losing. And then give it back got to Carmelo to SmackDown. It got, you know what I mean? Like, it helped everything going on there. He's done a great goddamn job, and I like the fact of they're teasing stuff for Punk continually. Ego, they've teased, Rollins, they've teased. It's just continually good.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
I like having things to look forward to down the line, not just
I'm so fast forwarded to like the big shit that I want to see. And I'm sorry, it's gonna happen. It's not even gonna happen at this WrestleMania, but there is a countdown. It is going to happen eventually. Yes, I'm a sarcastic asshole. Yes, I'm tribal. Yes, if you want to call me toxic, go for it. The last nail in my whatever you want to call it, my childish competitive coffin, as far as me being a wrestling fan and AEW goes, we need to see CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes for a world title at WrestleMania.
I couldn't agree more, and I can't wait to see.
But it's definitely not happening this year.
I don't think it'll happen this year, but no. I mean, never say never. We never know really what we're going to get. A lot of things are predictable down the line.
We got him and Rollins, obviously, when he comes back. And that was the other cool thing, too, because in storyline, it's a, hey, old friend, I'm still around type thing.
Yes.
Sort of take one step back. It's like, okay, CM Punk's kind of been holding up Raw while you've been gone. Now you're back. It's his turn to take some time off. There is a passing of the torch of like who's the main character on Raw.
Yeah.
Because he's not the champion, and I don't mean main character like he's at the tippy top of the card or anything like that, but just Main character on SmackDown is Cody Rhodes, whether he's got the belt or not. Main character on Raw is CM Punk, whether he's got the belt or not. And that's no disrespect to anybody else. You don't hear any more conversation about anybody else than you hear about CM Punk and Cody Rhodes. Maybe the Bloodline as a whole, but that's like 8 people.
Yeah.
And The Rock,
Max.
but that's The Rock.
Exactly. So I like what they, for the most part, the 2-hour Raw was fun.
Yep.
People said it felt a little rushed, and I'm like, you were the bastards that have been yelling from the top of the mountaintop saying, we've got to go back to 2 hours. You get 2 hours, and they're like, I need 3.
Of course.
So, fickle wrestling fans are fickle. They'll forever be pains in the asses.
But it's the same people that, ratings don't matter now. When they flip next week, they'll matter because they work in my favor, but they don't work right now.
See, and that's the thing, and it's like, God damn it, why does this not work at this point? Why can't we, and it's like,
Yep, and the thing is, and this is where, I'm going to say it, WWE's winning, even with all the criticism that I've laid down today, because I've laid down a fair bit of criticism tonight, I think, way more than usual. I still stick to my, hey, Spaz, what's going on in WWE right now? Everything.
Exactly. Everything. And no, I don't think you were, you criticized, but not.
Yeah.
Everything was justified.
I had more to criticize this time than I have in a while. I'll put it that way then. Because, look at the people involved, too. Even the matches that I was criticizing, the people involved are the same people that I pump up. And that's the same reason I hold them to a higher standard. It's the same reason I hold NXT and WWE. Like, we're talking about the Judgment Day, Liv Morgan. We're talking about CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. We're talking about Cody Rhodes, Roman. I came around on Cody. That was a thing that happened. What was one of my biggest criticisms of Bad Blood? I didn't like the hosts. Now, was it a thing? It was definitely a thing. It was definitely a grading thing. Did it matter at the end of the day? No, because I'm still in WWE land. WWE land is still the happiest place on earth.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to SmackDown. Sheamus and Pete Dunne gave us a hell of a great match, as where there was a while, too. We've gotten better matches, but we used to have to wait for pay-per-views. If we didn't have the pay-per-views, you pretty much got disqualifications or squash matches, and that's not what's happening lately. They gave them, it was a 13-minute match. It felt like 20, but it was never a bore. Mm-hmm. It was a banger after banger, legendary moment, I would say, when he went off of the Donnybrook barrows. And
that's the thing, like, you saw the interview that he did afterwards.
Yeah.
And he kind of did a CM Punk thing of like, oh yeah, I won, but what did I really win? I just beat the hell out of a guy I used to call a brother. And then he ended it off with Butch is dead, long live Pete Dunne.
I didn't even mind the women's multi-women tag match, People were down on that, and I'm like, there was 4 matches of the night. They were one of 3, and it was to further the Pure Fusion Collection story.
I will say, for the amount of people involved, if something got cut short that night, it was that match. But growing pains, and I think people even within WWE were saying, Raw being 2 hours is going to have some growing pains attached to it. And the criticism that I hear a lot already is, well, why? NXT is 2 hours and SmackDown is 2 hours. Why can't they do Raw 2 hours? Well, whenever they do the draft, they do 1.5 times more people on Raw because of that third hour. So they've either got to filter 0.5% of the people around to the other shows, or you got to get really stingy and careful with your time. And it's not like we might talk about what we don't like, but I don't think you or me are going to sit here and say that we could book a weekly wrestling show.
No, it's very difficult. Yeah. And okay, you came up with this. Well, how is this person going to be used in 3 weeks when you had this person lose twice and now they're not on equal footing? And but you can't have.
And these days, how is this feud going to affect that feud? Going to affect this feud?
Exactly.
Like, it's not like that's one of the things too. Is WWE the feuds don't exist in a bubble anymore.
But it's not just John Cena versus The Rock. It's affecting other people. It's bringing people into the fold. There's friendships. There's rivalries. There's
if we did
family.
If we did, let's say it was John Cena versus The Rock coming up in Saudi Arabia, and 3 weeks later CM Punk was taking on Seth Rollins. In those 3 weeks, those 2 matches might somehow be connected.
Yeah,
John Cena might have went in and attacked Seth Rollins in his match with CM Punk because he remembers when Seth Rollins kneed him in the face and broke his nose, because we do long-term storytelling. Like, Nothing exists in a bubble anymore. Another
Yeah.
huge credit that I can give to WWE. That was a huge mark against it a long time ago.
A massive mark.
So
and
I say I keep going back to the Bloodline because they're the best example, but like the Judgment Day is a similar thing. Damage Control is a similar thing. You start a fight with one guy. He's got 10 friends. They've all got rivalries with various people. So those people might be your friend for a week. And then one of them turns on you. And then the Bloodline is out of there and you've got this feud with so-and-so. What is that? That's Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, it's just like you said.
Baby faces are fighting each other and the heels are laughing.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be in a storytelling thing, unless you're at WrestleMania where the series finale is coming.
Yeah, where you're at the end of it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, next week we have already the spoilers out for the full tapings of Raw, which doesn't sound great.
They wasted, I'm not going to say who it is, but they wasted a kind of sort of debut / return on a taped show.
Yeah,
not a fan.
No, and I guess the rest of it is
the
just
the match looks
Raquel.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the match will be good, but as far as, like you said, everything else, we got Kairi Sane and Io Sky, the Sames over there taking on the Bianca and Jade DEI tag team.
I'm much more looking forward to their match on SmackDown, actually.
Yeah, I am as well.
I'm going to be all for, we're going to see those nice new platinum NXT graphics on SmackDown.
That, and
it's all coming together.
It's all meta, my friend. It's all meta. So we could say...
Like a Varma-hosted orgy.
Even then we can say that, there's at least something to look forward to with Raw. You got me.
It's fine. We're not political on this channel, I swear.
No.
Anyways, tell them where to find you, buddy.
You can find me on YouTube at Countdown Ended, Jake Countdown Ended DeMarco. You can find me on Twitter, same branding, at Countdown Ended. And you can find me on the Spaz Phoenix channel. That's right. Each week we're here for the state of wrestling. Been knocking that out of the park. If you like the live shows, you come over to my side. You like the podcast, go over there. Leave some comments. Let us know. What was your favorite part of wrestling this week? Did you really love NXT as much as we did? Which night was your favorite? Night 1, night 2? What did you think of AEW? Let us know down below.
Let me say this right now. After we've been dickheads for 2 hours almost, if you're an AEW fan and you are loving AEW right now, tell me your favorite part of AEW down in the comment section down below.
And we're not looking to,
Nope.
argue, and we're genuinely curious. Like, what are you liking? What are you not liking? What works for you? What doesn't work? Because there are a lot of things.
Let me put it this way. I'll put it on me. Guys, if you're an AEW fan, you're loving AEW, what am I missing?
Yeah, what are we not
What are we not seeing, or what are we not putting enough of a light on? Anyways, and you guys know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. This has been Super Sexy Jake DeMarco. This has been the State of Wrestling, and we are tagging out. Bye, guys.
Hit the like button.